Guys, it is Community Music Monday. I need you to get so psyched. We currently have a bet hedged right now for top five, one, two, three, four, or five, basically, between the Barry something and Jethro Tull's Aqualung. Um, yeah, one, two, three, four. Yeah, so top five of the rest. A whole bunch of people have bet a whole bunch of channel points. The way this works is pretty simple. The larger the slice of album pie, the more members of our community have spent their channel points to increase its odds, or the longer it's been there, maybe a combination of both. The smaller it is, the newer it is. We have 224 albums on this pie, and you will notice that there are some really big ones, and there are some really teeny tiny ones, to the point that they just have become a black smudge of text. Are you one of the 224 albums that are represented on this pie? Guys, good luck. If you're finding out you won on YouTube a little bit later, congratulations. I've made the executive decision not to shuffle, and as I'm thinking about that, I think I'm going to wait until we get to the black smudge. I'm going to wait to hit the button until the black smudge. And The Shining, welcome to the Rooskies, homie. I saw you came in with your first time chat. Rooskies, make our new friend feel at home. And in the meantime, good luck. What is it going to be? What is it going to be? What is it going to be? It is looking like Microcastle by Deerhunter from our friend Kiko66. Can we get some W's in the chat for Kiko66, as well as Kiko? If you are in the chat, let us know so I can give you your congratulations. And if not, can we get somebody to ping them? Kiko is here. Can we get W's for Kiko? Yo, Kiko. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was a relatively large slice of pie. It was not in the top five, so it looks like the underdogs win more tonight. All right, guys, let me go ahead and choose the outcome of whoever picked the rest. Great job. Good job at gambling tonight. I am proud of yous. And guys, Microcastle by Deerhunter. That's what we're getting into this evening for our album Slice of Pie. Shout out to the Johns. Those guys are so cool. Now, this album, I've already heard a song on. We reacted to the song Nothing Ever Happened, and I said the words, this seems like music that I would have just naturally ended up listening to in the time period. In 2008, you have a 17-year-old Walterooski that is going by the name of Wally because he is not yet, taken on his college moniker, Walter. You've got a really tiny anorexic dude hiding his darndest to, the fact that he was listening secular music from his parents. I was obsessed with Death Cab for Cutie, and the Shins, and the Decemberists, and Frightened Rabbit, and Neutral Milk Hotel in this particular year of my life. It's very, the Shins. I didn't listen to anybody else other than those bands and the Christian bands that my parents made me listen to. I was very, very much a closeted music enjoyer in this time of my life. I played instruments. That was just something that came. I can remember saying when I listened to this, if I would have found this album in 2008, it probably would have been in, the same group. So, yeah. Guys, you have to let me know. Are you familiar with Deerhunter? Are you familiar with the album Microcastle? This is a music discovery stream, so definitely let me know. And again, W's for our friend Kiko. Guys, this is a music discovery stream, so let me know. Have you heard this artist or album, or are you raw dogging a very first listen with me? If you like indie rock and soundscape, this might be for you based on the couple of things I've heard from Deerhunter. So guys, I'm going to hit the play button. Before I do, it's very important to me that you know that you are awesome, that you are valuable, that you are important, that you matter, that you are deserving of love, and that I am abundantly grateful for even a moment of your time. If you like what you see, feel free to hit the like and the subscribe button. It goes a long way to help me out. If you really like what you see, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you, or join us on Kick or Twitch. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Arizona time. These people over here are the best people. Come hang out with us. Come discover music with us. I know I speak for all of us when I say we would love to have you by. Guys, hopping back into some indie rock goodness for me. It came out August 12th or 13th of 2008. So I had just started my senior year of high school that week. Yeah, 12 tracks totaling out to 40 minutes and 53 seconds, starting with Cover Me Slowly. Here we go. Immediate yes. This might be an album that Jersey Girl makes an appearance on, guys. It feels like a Leslie speaker is getting pushed faster and faster and faster on this part, and it's pushing out like a vocal sound. I don't know that this one came with lyrics. I think that was just noise. I think that was just instrumental for all intents and purposes, ambient scatting. You were asking? You get it. Sorry, I want to go back and catch that transition. Of the Christian music you listen to, what do you remember as being the best? Any recommendations? Sorry to post again. Yeah, actually, I can tell you, I've had this discussion behind the scenes with my old bandmates, the guys I toured with when I was in a Christian band. I've had this discussion with a couple of like real Christian people. I think that the best Christian music album that ever got made was Church Music by David Crowder Band. It is one of the coolest combinations of rock and roll, 8-bit sounds, creativity, concept. It followed a concept and stuck with it. It really lands. They covered the song "All Around Me" by Flyleaf. In just the most broken down and beautiful way. It really is David Crowder Band. Crowder Band, like 3 words. Crowder spelled the way you spelled it, space BAND. I don't think that there is an argument in all of Christian music, and I've listened to a lot of albums. I'm a guy that plays guitar at church every Sunday. It's part of, I believe, say what you will about me for saying this, but it's like part of what I think I was like made to do on the earth. I also think that the Faith Plus One episode of South Park is like one of the best episodes of South Park because of how genuinely like accurate it is as a guy that came out of a background in CCM. Um, hilariously enough, they got a lot of ex-Mormons say that South Park got the Mormon thing right. South Park got the contemporary Christian music thing right. Shockingly and offensively correct. Um, but yeah, I don't think that there is I'm saying an actual CCM band, not a band that got played on big radio. I'm saying like a band that I having met them myself, like meant they practiced what they preached. Like they were guys that actually were there for what their beliefs were and not for money, and I appreciated that about them. It was all recorded in David's house. They all went to different rooms. They came together. The whole recording process. I watched a lot of different documentaries on it, like because they filmed themselves doing it as they did it. I mean, it was a really cool process. Even the music videos they made for it, like it's the one of the most amazing DIY stories. Period, and that they had the creative freedom to do it. That was a really big answer in the middle of a totally unrelated album, but that's the real answer. Church Music by David Crowder Band is the best Christian music album ever made.
I want to fade away.
Cover me and comfort me is a very common prayer in Christianity. I don't know if you knew that, but this is a very common cry to God. You know, cover me with your comfort, cover me with your blessings, cover me with your protection and safety, comfort me in my time of need. Whatever the case may be, there and the contrast of that with agoraphobia, right? It is very, very interesting because you kind of get this vibe of prayer throughout, but then it's not, because it's kind of like this idle prayer, like not necessarily. More religious imagery on this album, a bit of a metaphor for Bradford's childhood. I think it's very obvious to me, and maybe it's because I do come from like a place of faith. Like I'm the guy that ironically, unironically wears the the Got Christ shirt coming from Dogma, because I absolutely believe with everything Dogma spoke about Christianity. But I get the vibe here that he kind of has juxtaposed this concept of agoraphobia and being afraid to go out with very common prayer themes in Christianity. Yeah, I think I get it, and maybe it's because it's hitting me with the sound texture that if you've ever seen me cover indie rock in my channel before, you've probably heard me say like I speak the language naturally, right? Like there's no amount of effort that I have to go into. Like I can go discover any indie rock music and I'm gonna like it because I've got an ear that's kind of tuned for it, right? Like it's what my brain naturally sought out, so it's the language I'm most fluent in. Maybe second to like classic rock or something, but in this context, I don't have to try to like it. I just already do. It's built on sound textures that taught me how to play music. you know? And so when I see lyricism that I can relate to from a perspective I can recall and see how that gets juxtaposed with feelings I have felt with agoraphobia, it hits immediately as digestible. I like how I'm like over here waxing poetic about my like wholesome irreverence with Buddy Christ over here. I like that they kind of jam out this part. Really enjoy this. Really? I do find it serendipitous that I have been kind of on this quest that I've announced to people as we've been going on our discovery journeys, that I've kind of been on this like a hunt that, or like this hope for something to come upon me, like that indie jam band, right? I've found in my time reacting that jam band is for me, right? And so many of the bands I love are great at jamming. Giz, Ween, they're not jam bands exclusively, but they can get some jams in there. It's that sense of improvisation that really stood out to me the most. And I think it probably is a language that spoke to me louder than any other language of music did. But it wasn't one I started speaking fluently easily. I had to do a lot of practice in jam kind of styles to get out of like the one trick pony with indie, right? So when I started thinking, like, I can remember commenting to Mel one time, like and on the stream, like I need to just like find an indie jam band or start one myself, because that's like awesome. And then people were like, oh dude, no, this has been done, I think you'll really like these guys. And so like I'm kind of looking for those something like that. And I like that seemingly serendipitous enough we would end up on something that kind of has that indie jam sound without full sending a jam sesh. Goose are quite literally an indie jam band. Mel has been really shilling Goose behind the scenes. I've listened to the one thing I've seen them do. Trey Anastasio comes out with Goose and plays Arcadia and another song I can't remember, but those two, I was like, well, Goose pretty good. I kind of like Goose, but I wouldn't have called that an indie performance or an indie band from what I'd seen. So it is interesting to me that you would say indie jam band like that. First two songs, I'm a fan.
I had dreams that frightened me away.
I love this.
I happened to escape.
It's that it doesn't sound like a normal melody at all. I love the way that kind of rubs.
Frightened me away. I happened to escape. But my escape
This is Bradford Cox now, the main singer.
never come. Would never come. Would never come. Would never come.
Immediately, I love this. It's perfect. Perfect example of indie rock. This definitely seems contemporary to Tokyo Police Club, which is, especially if you jump into like the Elephant Shell EP. I think you'll see a similarity there. His voice here, there's this kind of like talk voice that you hear in indie that I really enjoy. But it gets really big, kind of ambient. You hear these nice synth leads in the background. The bass is super pronounced. Stops. Do you guys, come on. I don't know why that happened. Do you guys notice that It Never Stops, it then stopped? The music then stopped. I love when little vocal moments kind of play into the moment of the music. Never Stops is great. Winter does suck. That's why I moved to the desert. It's interesting though. I love winter. In my heart, it never stops. It's almost kind of like a comment on being cold. I feel like one of the biggest instruments in indie rock is the lyricism. A lot of times, I had dreams that frightened me awake. I had to escape, but my escape would never come. Would never come. I had plans to go away for days to try to risk a pace that haunts my days. I love winter. In my heart, it never stops. The winter never stops. I totally relate. I love the imagery. I love the seasonal comment. Kind of spills into like, if you're like me, and you've dealt with a lot of long winters in your life or a lot of gray skies, you might deal with this thing called seasonal depression. I do have seasonal depression. I honestly, I kind of, I've made enough videos now for long enough that I can kind of look back and see my own videos and see when I released them and look at myself and kind of have this moment where I remember what I was dealing with when I made a video. In a lot of ways, this channel serves as a video diary for me, which I think I'm perhaps the only person that it gets to serve that effect for, but here we are. Um, I can certainly see my own trend of seasonal depression played out in my videos. And in this, I almost feel like it's taking the imagery of winter and putting it into one's heart and creating the imagery of seasonal depression with the way one feels. That kind of haunted by days, by the way they've spent their time. I get it. I love it. This backing, this tremolo back, like lead guitar, do 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 do. But you hear this whoa 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 sound. All it's really fast. Crazy about that change in direction. Yo, Colin, thank you for the 50 tickle bitties, dude. Huh. This song has laid a little flat compared to the other sounds we've heard on the album so far. I didn't really like the To Get Older Still bit. This is better. It feels like they're setting up a build-up for a jam moment. It definitely gets big and washed there, you know? It wasn't my favorite. I liked the way they end it. Kind of feels like they brought us to the beach there at the end. The ending was clearly the best part of the album, or not the album, of the song. The song stuck the landing. I had a hard time with just these transitions didn't hit me too hard. This one just wasn't my favorite. Microcastle. This is the title track. Feels a little Arctic Monkeys-ish here. Don't dunk on me for saying that. Because you're lying if you disagree. This moment, at least. It was better than ICP, yes. For sure. For sure. For sure. I like the stripped back moment of just singing with the reverby amp. Just a bass and an electric. Just rakes on an electric guitar. The little bluesy walk downs with the blue notes. I just had an epiphany moment that indie rock is full of moments like these like snooze and release moments. Indie rock does not tension and release a person. Indie rock lulls and releases a person. I just kind of had that connection. I think I was kind of in Weenie Hut Jr. version of Mustard and tension and release with indie rock. I think indie rock just kind of does a tension and release thing, but instead of punching you in the face, it gives you like a little pat on the shoulder, maybe like a pretty decent handshake, or like, a side hug. Yeah, I'm hearing that. You think they're putting their voices through like a rack mount, or you think that they're like because I think 2008 they weren't really doing a whole lot of like digitized vocal effects that like were in pedal forms. That technology I felt like really started hitting like 2012, 13, like where you started seeing really dedicated like vocalist pedals kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm wondering, did he like connect an XLR into a TRS, like adapter into a TRS, and then a TRS into like a pedal cable that he then put into like a DI? Or did he do that? Like, I'm interested. How did they do it? But would the path be XLR to like microphone to XLR to, sorry, that's my cable line, to TRS patch that goes into pedal, in this case, tremolo, that TRS is out into maybe like a compressor or like a DI that then runs into like what that's in my brain how you would accomplish that without just doing it in Pro Tools or Ableton.
Crucified on a cross in front of my closest
Whoa.
friends. Crucified on a
Whoa.
cross in front of my closest.
What is this noise? It kind of is like folly, rhythmic folly. You get what I mean when I say rhythmic folly, right? Like I'm not just coming up with a concept out of my butt here. Wooden disc percussion huyas. The warble here. The transition to Green Jacket. Not bad. So just the last song that we heard there was Calvary Scars. Going into the lyrics on that one, it kind of felt like we were writing from the perspective of one Jesus Christ and what might be going through a human being's brain as he's being crucified. Because like dude laid there alive on a cross for like hours. I'm guessing he probably had some idle time to have like thoughts other than ouch, and that might be one of them. He walked with those dudes for like 3 years, day and night, like every single day. They ate together, they farted together, they smelled each other. Like, my guess is the human being probably had that real thought, like seeing the sadness on their faces as he was like dying. And it comes as quick as it goes, in and out. It's interesting to see. Maybe this is coming from you have to be me to feel that way, but as a person who's wrestled a lot with religious identity and faith and, the differentiation of like people making the world this way versus God making the world this way. Shout out to Rorschach for helping me connect that dot in my own personal journey. But it's kind of interesting to see that other guys that made indie music have those same wrestlings, and you see this all over. I think that's why an artist like Maynard, you know, from Tool stands out to me so much because he like writes about those things, and we have very differing outcomes of belief system for sure. But I think we could both look at each other and probably acknowledge the fair perspective either of us has, acknowledging similar upbringings and beginnings. And I kind of feel like I get the same vibe from these guys with some of the lyrics. No credits. This is about as indie as it gets, huh? Released in 2008 under 2008 Cranky. Love it. And the warbly ending I really, really, really like.
I take what I can. I give what I have left. I take
Kind of hypnotic. One, two, three, four. It changed.
what I need.
And we're back.
What I see.
Some of this reminds me of the Spoon album we listened to, and because I'm trying to remember the name, it's not coming to my head, so I'm doing a quick search just for sake of honesty. I don't want you to think. When we listened to the Transference album by Spoon, this is bringing me to a little bit of that. Not that I think this band is like ripping one off, not that I think one is derivative of the other, but I definitely feel like I've gotten some vibes that this feels similar to that Spoon album.
See.
Am I the only one that hears that? Or maybe it's just me. I love the decay of that piano. They're holding the sustain pedal. You can tell he's holding the sustain pedal, but I want you to listen in the background. This is really deep cut headphone sounds that make my brain just swoon. I want you to be listening in the background for what sounds like dog paws just pat, 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 papping in a floor in a distant room through a really hot microphone, capturing a really delicate piano. I know that this is one of those weird attention to detail moments, but this is exactly the type of stuff about indie rock that makes me happy. Because you do get so much of that DIY junk noise that adds a little bit of personality to it, adds almost like intentional folly. But listen really close. I'm going to turn the sauce up all the way, but listen to the pap paps. Give me a sec. It really does sound like A dog's just walking in the room that they're recording the piano in. Ooh. That's a goopy sound with a clean piano sound.
Wasting our lives, we wasting our time. I drink out creek will run dry.
They really capture folly with junk noise. Almost making like storm sounds.
Steam will rise. I tried.
This crazy combination of clean acoustic sound meets wild, gritty atmosphere with like dissonance is a really weird and unique blend.
I tried. I tried. I tried.
It's super interesting. This middle section of the album, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of hit me as almost, it would have almost been better as just one collection of song. You know, if we went from Microcastle into Calvary Scars, take it back. Calvary Scars, Green Jacket, and Activia, I think all could have been, Activa could have all been, Activia, LOL product placement, all could have been one song. I think it would have been a really interesting way to approach it. And I wouldn't have been weird or rough. I've heard nothing ever happened, but I do have to run an ad, and then we're going to come back and finish this thing down. Guys, this has been kind of a more subdued work than I thought we were going to be getting into. Not all of it, but definitely the middle section here was a bit subdued. Let's see if it finishes that way. BRB. All right, friendos, let's finish this bizzle down. I have water now. Let's get going. This is the one we came with the knowledge of already. And this had an indie jam vibe to it, which I enjoyed. Interestingly enough, I was just sitting here having this thought. After kind of a lull middle vibe of the album, this really serves as an uplifting agent, doesn't it?
Only way within, but there's no way out. You learn to talk, you learn to shout. Focus on the depth that was never there. Eliminate what you can't repair. Nothing ever happened to me. Nothing ever happened to me. Nothing ever happened to me. Life just passed and flashed right through me. Sleep through the wind to awaken spring. Adjust your eyes.
I definitely get like a Tokyo Police Club meets kind of Death Cab meets like weirdly MGMT for the time period. The vocal shifting there is so perfect. I agree with you, Radar. And again, I think coming into this particular song after the others really just serves as a much needed like shot of adrenaline for the album.
To awaken spring, adjust your eyes to the state of things. Focus on the depth that was never there. Nothing's easy, nothing's fair. Nothing ever happened to me. Nothing ever happened to me. Nothing ever happened to me. Life just passed and flashed right through me.
Interesting. You kind of have a lyrical bridge. I'm connecting this for the first time. You kind of have the bridge there at the end of the song. You know, you've got that "nothing ever happened to me" kind of chorus, if you want to call it that. But then it goes into and finishes on the bridge. I think it's really cool when you see bands do that because it's not a common ending. The theme of this one really hits home. Yeah, life just passed and flashed right through me. I never saw it coming. Waiting for something for nothing. I definitely feel like that speaks into a lot of people. Like whether you're pining in your life, waiting for something to be better, whether you are trying to convince yourself to believe something that you just shouldn't believe, and that goes deeper than just faith-based systems. I'm talking about like believing a person loves you when their actions repetitively show that they do not. You know, whatever the case may be, you know, being in a career that you hate when you actually do have the power to affect your situation and leave it and get out of it. Whatever the case may be, I think this song kind of comments on the idle nature of life and like not doing anything to affect it, blinking and kind of realizing life passed you by and nothing ever happened to you because you didn't make it.
Something from nothing. I never saw it coming.
And the blindside realization that it's got to be when you kind of blink and feel like you didn't make of your life what you could have had you applied and not waited for something to happen to you. It hits. And I mean, in my own life, I talk about this moment in my life a lot, especially in my videos, because it's relevant and it's where I find myself. But in like October of 2024, I made a video saying I was really unhappy and lonely and I didn't have a community. I didn't have people. I had no idea how to get out of my spot. Like I commented, and this is before I started playing guitar in church, I commented about how I'd been going to church and I just wasn't finding a community of people, and then it was easier for me to make friends in a bar than it was in a group of people that share my faith. It was a really tough time, and I felt like there were a lot of days that I would just get off of work at 6 o'clock and I would not say another word until the next day when I clocked back in and talked to somebody at home, like in my work from home job, on the phone about my job. And I was just getting really trapped and in my head. And I kind of realized like I was idly allowing that to happen. Like that was me kind of being trapped in my own like cycle, like where I just couldn't shift out of idle, you know? And I said in that video, I needed to do something. Like that video is literally called, I need to get this off my chest. I'm unhappy. And I said I was needed to figure something out because something had to give. And that something was me doing the schedule on stream, like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the album tour stuff. Like that all happened as a result of me trying to combat this. So I get it.
Waiting for something from nothing.
Fine. Fine. I was also thinking the same thing, and I've never really tried to indie jam like this. And shout out, by the way, I'm using our new gift of the Mike Rutherford pick, okay? So I feel like since we were gifted a new pick today, seems appropriate. Let's go. Okay. I'm gonna use a pick that was Mike Rutherford's, guys. Can you guys hear that? Let me see. Got a little lost in the sauce there for a moment, guys, but it, I golly goodness, it really was just fun. It really was. Again, it's just one of those, like, obviously I'm not practiced or rehearsed or anything. I'm completely raw dogging a playthrough, but man, it just kind of goes out on this really big friggin' fun. I'm going to put Jersey Girl back, but golly goodness, I do think I want to start an indie jam band. Who wants to start a band and name it Fileshare with me? I just played a guitar with a pick that Mike Rutherford played, guys. Saved by old times.
Mrs. Hemmings was OAO.
What's OAO?
Pretty soon we were all OAO.
You can hear that really wet, dripping reverb there that, yeah, I can't make the sound for the microphone. It's not going to pick up the noise, but like yeah, you're not going to get it. Over and out.
Captured by Victorian vampires.
Shout out to the Walterooski.
With elaborate designs.
Pretty woman.
This is the land of OAO. This is the land of OAO.
You can definitely hear that the Beatles influenced this, huh?
This is the land of OAO. This is the land of OAO.
We are a Romanian sound collage. Searching for the ghost of magic in our but these sound compound will not know. Let us gain entry into the immortal soul of the land. What's happening here and what's taking here? Combat with the combat with ourselves. Combat with these cultural vampires. We will travel the basement.
I really like this song a lot. This whole vocal is just ad-libbed from Cole Alexander, friend of the band and member of Black Lips. Really? W Johnson. Weird radio work. Okay. Still. I love it. The feedback finish. Oh, yeah. We got 2 songs to go. Is this album going to stick the landing, guys? Neither of us, of course. Let me get lyrics really quick. it's like the most indie rock doo-wop, wet, washed out, reverbed out, like tremolo-y sound, like doo-wop indie stuff. I like the production. I like that it's super panned. I like that it's got this real pulse to the woo 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 woo. Like they're really playing into the pulsating of the tremolo. And I'm really digging that. I like the jammed out part. I kind of like this real experiment in a lot of ambience and atmosphere with it kind of feels like maybe shoegaze doo-wop is a better way to put this particular song without the actual doo-wops, you know? I can't decide if I should or shouldn't have said that because of racism, but I think you guys know what I meant. Shoe-wop. I'm freezing in my house right now. The producer of this album also produced Transfers from Spoon. Walter nailed it. Did I really? I'm so happy to hear you say that. In a not flexing way, just in a dang, called it kind of way. Like, thank you for going out of your way to type that in the chat, because that made me feel really good. You didn't have to say that. I could have just gone on the rest of my life not knowing, but the fact that you went out of your way to say it, I was checking what Animal Collective he worked on and just saw it. Love the happenstance. Thank you. It's, believe it or not, I feel like I don't have anything to prove. Like, I'm not a virtuosic musician, but I've got a decent ear, like a pretty good one, better than I think a lot of people, not better than most musicians. I'm not trained in any sense of the imagination. I've taught myself everything I know, but I do sometimes feel self-conscious because there are so many good music creators that are trained. I can step in and play with most bands I encounter. I'm pretty quick to tell you which bands I could not, right? Some stuff like it's just it's easy to step into, but you know, I guess I'm a lot of times insecure about my ear because I put a lot of my stuff out on the internet for people to see and be like, not only are you wrong, but you're stupid. So sometimes when moments reinforce that, like, okay, maybe I have a decent ear, makes me feel good. So thank you. Again, it's not like I feel like there's anything to prove because I don't think I've ever boasted myself to be a musician, the you know, level that I am not. But I do get one guide by comment sections occasionally. You know, because when I go If I'm already in a bad mood and I read a comment section being like, you know, your solo sucked. You shouldn't have played with that. Never play the harmonica again. Whatever the case may be. Um, you know, sometimes I take getting dunked on too personally. Thank you. You proved it. You nailed it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I think in a lot of ways, production though is like a instrument. You know, I think Brian Eno. You know, um, I think Jimmy Iovine, right? I think producers, Rick Rubin, okay. A lot of these producers have worked with many different people, but they have, we'll say, a je ne sais quoi, where you can hear what it is that the production brought to the table. Butch Vig, another guy that has worked on a lot of projects that whose sound you probably know without knowing. Um, I think that there are probably a lot of producers whose sound you could probably identify the same way you can identify certain guitar players' riffs. You know, like think Santana. You don't have to hear Santana sing to know Santana's playing the guitar. In the same way, I think you can hear that kind of stuff with producers. And I think, I mean, obviously you can hear it with voices. Obviously you can, and Butch plays drums for Garbage. I did know that because I got really into the song Bleed Like Me by Garbage when I was a freshman in high school. Small subtext to my life, but that's how I know who Butch Vig is. But I do think if you really think in deep, really think into it, you probably, and do some research, you probably have producers whose music lives in your head. For me, I think Chris Walla was one of the earliest examples of me recognizing I could hear production characteristics. Like Chris Walla's work with Death Cab, of course, but then his work with Tegan and Sarah, Hot Hot Heat. You can certainly hear a lot of, I mean, just that man in other people's stuff. These are the moments that made me think of the spoon thing in general. These random goopy transitions and left turns. So we're coming into the last song with some kind of eerie, maybe minute long of... Am I just hearing really, really, really long decayed piano decay junk? Something's rising out of this with these keys. Kind of feels like a flower of sound coming out of Bloom Coming into bloom. Twilight at Carbon Lake. Oh man, I love that sound. Kind of back to the doo-woppy chord progression stuff.
Go to the shore and pray for the sea. Go towards the mirror and pray that you'll see someone else dancing.
Is this like a C, A minor, F, and G sort of chord progression here? The guy who produced Nevermind produced Siamese Dream. Billy layered like 8 strats and played the bass parts for most of the album. I mention this because my nephew sent me your reaction to Siamese Dream. Yo, Michael, thank you for the info, homie. I appreciated that. This does sound to me like a C, A minor, F, and G kind of really simple chord progression. W nephew, W Michael. You'll love to see it.
Go to the waves and pray in the center of the stage. Go away.
Like sad doo-wop though.
Sit on the ground and cry. You'll never know why.
I love these guitars, these guitar tones. This aggressive tremolo, that's really, really, really. It's don't wop. Yeah, kind of. I actually really like the way you put that. Shoe wop. Don't shoe wop. Don't shoe wop. Yeah, that more shoegaze racism. Yeah, exactly. Tasteful. Go to a parking lot, sit on the ground, and cry. You'll never know why. It's got that sad walking in the rain, kind of like hit between the eyes, almost dazed and confused with heavy emotion vibes in a song. It really goes hard. I feel like it's any time gonna send off, but it could also just end up being one of these moments. Like it feels like a song that could definitely go into fuzzy, aggressive like shoegaze, wall of sound territory. Also, Butch Vig has a very, very, very tremendous interview in the documentary Sound City, talking about recording Nevermind in the studio Sound City. And if you are a fan of Nirvana or music in general, or recording processes or documentaries, or all of the things I just said prior to me saying you should watch this, go and watch this. Sound City is potentially one of the best music documentaries ever. It's a very short list of one of the best ever. Go and watch it. The cast that Dave Grohl interviewed for that movie probably represents the 1% of great music. Go and watch that documentary.
Sit on the ground and cry.
The drum coming back was such a tasty texture at getting added. That documentary is infinitely less about Dave Grohl and infinitely more about the artist. Like the first album that was ever recorded on the Neve console that Dave Grohl ends up buying from the bankrupt Sound City and putting it into his own house and recording with all of those classic rock musicians. Like the first album that gets cut is Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks' album Buckingham Nicks. And then they meet and become Fleetwood. Like Stevie and Lindsey join Fleetwood Mac because of that solo album. Pause right before the explosion. Oh, my bad. But I'll go back and we'll finish her out. But go and friggin' watch Sound City. If it's probably the best documentary to explain how music is made in a studio. And while what you're going to watch is more of an analog process, you're going to hear from people from everybody from like Stevie Nicks to Trent Reznor, you know, like there's and everybody in between. It's so cool. What a payoff moment. What if I told you guys I only ever heard Fleetwood Mac from Rumors On? I never heard pre-Rumors Fleetwood Mac. Ever. That album stuck the landing. I won't lie. There are better bodies of work that comprise an album in indie rock. This I kind of liked better for singles than for the whole thing, excluding the payoff that you get from this middle section. I would probably never listen to any of these ones in the middle on their own, but they do provide a fantastic layer for the album. As a whole, I mean, it's different. It's funny because it had so many things I like, it had so many things I enjoyed, but it just, as a whole, the whole project wasn't my favorite indie rock thing, but I like them enough. And you know what it is? I'm almost positive I'm probably being retrospectively critical here because it's like my favorite genre of music, indie rock. I loved the sound textures, but this felt like, honestly, I kind of liked the last 4 songs on the album. I think maybe Never Stops was one of my favorites, but I think the last 4 songs in the album were like my favorite songs in the album, and then it just kind of suffered a lull. Like the middle part was cool, but I was kind of eager for it to get back into the rock heavy part, you know? The ethereal atmosphere of that one, I agree. I just felt like, it isn't my favorite indie rock, but it's going to be really hard for any band to just hop in and be able to like swing fists with the indie rock I've lived with my whole life. It is an album I'm just going to end up listening to because I like it, but it wasn't like an every single song mind blowing thing. It was fun to play along with. It's exactly the kind of like album that I would just put on and play to. Like I practice a lot with just playing random songs and just picking up and playing with them. That's kind of how I like sharpen my skills, and that's how I learn how to play songs a lot of times, is just like listening to it and playing along with it. So I'd say this album before the album before this one is much better. I'd be interested. Again, I actually really liked Deerhunter and will be revisiting them. I just don't think it's going to be easy for any indie rock band to just jump in and become I don't want to say I've explored all of the avenues that indie rock has to offer, because I certainly have not, but this one didn't wow me to the point that I like am gonna override sentimental connection, Anyways, I liked it. Deer Hunter was dope. Other than Pavement, that's different. Pavement, the bands I love don't happen without Pavement, very obviously, and it has those jam elements that God knows I just like. Anyways, guys, I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for the positivity that you show both to me and to one another. Continue to be the best. And until I see you next, be introspective and consider the birds. Goodbye.